What if humanity's true past has been shockingly erased for millennia? Over 200 cultures describe one terrifying, earth-shattering global cataclysm. Noah's flood, Atlantis' fall, Tartaria's mud, all fragments of one forbidden truth. Powerful global elites deliberately buried this incredible advanced human heritage. Newly discovered evidence reveals global giants and incredible lost power technologies. Stay until the end. The jaw-dropping truth of our origins is revealed. Imagine a world violently sundered by a singular cataclysmic fury. This global event utterly reshaped all we comprehend about our history. Our past chronicles, however, whisper untruths, splintering one disaster. They create 1,000 scattered fables designed to keep us divided. This deliberate fragmentation leaves humanity perpetually blind, locked in conflict. What if Noah's deluge and Atlantis' demise were not distinct tragedies? What if Tartaria's vestiges and Babel's tower shared the same fate? Even submerged enigmas of ancient Egypt might echo one apocalyptic event. A singular global cataclysm swept across the world mere centuries ago. What if power architects distorted history, forging a web of confusion? They entombed truth about our unified heritage, hidden from us all. Humanity once flourished in profound harmony, wielding incredible technologies. This heritage could rival stars, a question haunting forgotten knowledge. Who truly profits from our collective ignorance about this past? What profound terrors might stir if we dare to truly remember? Contemplations stir, drawing us deeper into ancient mysteries history conceals. Let us journey to the heart of this enigma, where myths converge. Picture a civilization at its zenith, splendor unfurling across continents. Diverse peoples coexisted, colossal figures strode among humanity. Sophisticated machines harnessed ether energy, powering gleaming metropolises. This was Tartaria, or perhaps Atlantis by another designation, or even the antediluvian world referenced in Noah's era, names that dissolve into a singular identity when the veils of deception are finally lifted. But then the cataclysm descended, a deluge composed not solely of water, but of viscous mud, consuming fire and utter chaos, engineered, perhaps by forces far beyond our limited comprehension. The Anunnaki, those ancient entities from Sumerian lore, are said to have unleashed nuclear devastation upon the polar ice caps, melting vast glaciers in an instant, and inundating the world in an act of retribution or desperate survival. The legendary Emerald Tablets of Thoth speak cryptically of such destructions, where alchemical powers turned against their own creation, submerging entire empires and scattering the few survivors like withered leaves in a ferocious tempest. Why, you might justly inquire, would such a unified planetary disaster be deliberately fragmented into disparate narratives? The answer lies concealed within the shadows of control. Imagine a clandestine cabal of elites, perhaps the heirs of the Illuminati or similar secretive fraternities, who in the chaotic aftermath seized the reins of the global narrative. They meticulously rewrote historical chronicles, manipulated ancient dates, and deliberately embedded confusion into sacred texts, including the Bible itself, thus ensuring that Noah's Ark became an isolated biblical fable, while Atlantis faded into a Platonic myth and Tartaria vanished entirely from the world's maps. This deliberate fragmentation served a sinister agenda, to prevent humanity from reclaiming its shared heritage, a legacy of profound peace and advanced knowledge that possessed the power to topple modern hierarchies. By systematically dividing us through the constructs of religion, race and creed, they perpetuate endless conflicts, ongoing wars that serve as calculated distractions from the true adversary, the eraser of our collective memory. Let us delve deeper into the pervasive flood myths that inextricably bind these tales. Across the entire globe, over 200 distinct cultures recount strikingly similar deluges, each replete with uncanny parallels. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, originating from ancient Babylon, the hero Utnapishtim constructs a vessel to survive a divinely ordained flood, mirroring Noah's divine warning and subsequent ark construction almost verbatim. The Hindu Puranas describe Manu, the progenitor of humanity, guided by a fish incarnation of Vishnu to weather a world-ending inundation, preserving the very seeds of life for future rebirth. Native American legends, from the Hopi to the Inca, speak of immense waters rising to purify corruption. Meanwhile, African oral traditions from the Yoruba evoke floods as severe punishments from the Orishas. Even the Maori of New Zealand whisper of Ranginui's tears, flooding the earth in profound sorrow. These are not mere coincidences. They are fragmented recollections of the exact same event, distorted through generations of oral retellings and intentional censorship. But consider the monumental implications if these were indeed a single unified cataclysm. The Younger Dryas period, occurring approximately 12,000 years ago, or perhaps far more recently if timelines have been deliberately manipulated, witnessed sudden and drastic climate shifts, massive meltwater pulses, and compelling evidence of comet impacts or solar flares that could have triggered global devastation. Yet alternative theories posit a much nearer date, aligning with the mud flood hypothesis of Tartaria. Proponents argue that in the 18th or 19th century, a liquefied Earth, perhaps resulting from immense electromagnetic upheavals or directed energy weaponry, buried thriving metropolises under vast layers of mud. This, they claim, explains why so many historical buildings worldwide exhibit sunken basements and windows located inexplicably below current ground level. Cities like Chicago, Seattle, and St. Petersburg reveal these profound architectural anomalies upon excavation, hinting at a reset that was not ancient, but alarmingly modern. Enter the pivotal role of the Anunnaki, those enigmatic figures detailed in Mesopotamian clay tablets, interpreted by scholars, such as Zecharia Sitchin, as extraterrestrial visitors who genetically engineered humanity for labor. According to these interpretations, internal conflicts among the Anunnaki themselves, specifically between the benevolent Enki who favored humankind and the authoritarian Enlil, who sought absolute control, culminated in the deployment of catastrophic weaponry. Nuclear detonations, evidenced by vitrified sands found in the Libyan desert or irradiated ruins in the Indus Valley city of Mohenjo-Daro, could have vaporized vast ice sheets, unleashing tsunamis and floods that fundamentally reshaped continents. The Emerald Tablets, traditionally attributed to the Egyptian god Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus in Greek lore, allude to such alchemical destructions, where celestial fire and abyssal waters converge to bring an entire era to its end. If these beings are indeed part of our lineage, as some unexplained DNA anomalies suggest, then the cover-up extends to our very origins, a profound secret guarded by institutions like the Vatican or the Smithsonian, both frequently accused of suppressing artifacts that challenge official historical narratives. This brings us to the Tower of Babel, not merely a biblical parable of human hubris, but a profound metaphor for forbidden technology. In Genesis, humanity's unified language and audacious ambition to reach the heavens provoked divine intervention, scattering tongues and peoples. Yet if we decode it, the tower might represent advanced rocketry or sophisticated energy-harnessing devices, ziggurats perhaps, functioning as enormous antennas drawing atmospheric power, a technology Tartaria allegedly mastered. The subsequent confusion of languages could symbolize a post-cataclysmic amnesia, induced possibly by electromagnetic pulses, or a form of psychological warfare, ensuring that survivors rebuilt in isolation, fostering the very divisions that persist to this day. Babylon's fall then was part of the same deluge, its renowned hanging gardens and architectural marvels swallowed by mud, just as Atlantis plunged into the sea. And Egypt, its pyramids, those monolithic sentinels, stand as undeniable testaments to pre-flood engineering, precisely aligned with stars and possibly functioning as immense power plants or resonant devices. Erosion patterns observed on the Sphinx suggest extensive water damage from a massive flood, an event post-dating its construction, aligning perfectly with the proposed cataclysm. Hieroglyphs within the Book of the Dead cryptically hint at a time of immense chaos, when gods warred, flooding the Nile and beyond, erasing a golden age where pharaohs communed directly with celestial beings. Now weave in the New World Order conspiracy. Modern elites, allegedly tracing their lineages to these ancient manipulators, consciously perpetuate the divide-and-conquer strategy through controlled media, manipulated education systems, and engineered political discord. They echo the Babel scattering, actively promoting hyper-nationalism, religious extremism, and racial tensions to prevent a global awakening. Wars in the Middle East, aggressive resource grabs in Africa, ideological clashes worldwide, all it is claimed are distractions from the critical task of unearthing buried cities or decoding forbidden texts. Organizations like the Illuminati, symbolized by the enigmatic all-seeing eye, are said to orchestrate this grand deception, their roots embedded in Freemasonry and Rosicrucian, orders that meticulously hoarded esoteric knowledge from the cataclysm's survivors. But why go to such lengths to conceal a unified past? Because in that harmony lay immense power, free energy drawn from the ether, telepathic communication transcending all language barriers, and extended longevity achieved through advanced medicine. Tartarian maps astonishingly depict a borderless world where colossal figures, the Nephilim, hybrids of angels and humans as per biblical accounts, co-labored with mortals in constructing megastructures. Evidence of these beings abounds in suppressed findings. Giant skeletons unearthed in American mounds, elongated skulls discovered in Peru, and colossal tools found in Baalbek. If revealed, such profound truths could utterly dismantle scarcity-based economies, ending the world's reliance on oil barons and pharmaceutical giants. As we ponder this, the unsettling question lingers: are we, humanity, on the very precipice of another global reset? The proliferation of UFO sightings, unprecedented climate anomalies, and escalating geopolitical tensions all mirror ancient warnings. Perhaps the Anunnaki still observe, or their descendants continue to pull the strings from the shadows. In this intricate veil of deception, our relentless quest for truth becomes an act of rebellion, a quiet revolution stirring in the deep of the night. Yet a flicker of hope persists. By meticulously piecing these fragmented myths together, we begin to reclaim the essential fragments of our true essence, a species born of the stars, resilient through apocalypse. Imagine societies rebuilding, not in paralyzing fear, but in profound unity, harnessing lost technologies for a future of peace. This, dear seeker, is the very secret they fear, our awakening. So as the night deepens around you, let these revelations wash over your consciousness like a gentle tide, carrying you towards slumber while planting the indelible seeds of wonder. What if in our deepest dreams we glimpse the unfragmented truth? The cataclysm was won, the cover-up vast, but the indomitable human spirit endures, patiently waiting to reunite. Deep beneath the layers of earth that blanket our modern cities, profound secrets lie entombed, patiently awaiting the curious mind to unearth them. Tartaria, that enigmatic empire whispered about in the forgotten corners of history, emerges not as a mere footnote in dusty tomes, but as a colossal civilization that once spanned entire continents, its grandeur rivaling the wildest dreams of any utopia. Picture vast landscapes where magnificent spires pierced the very clouds, edifices built not by the arduous toil of ordinary men, but by beings who mastered energies we can scarcely begin to comprehend today. This was no ordinary realm. It was a vibrant tapestry of diverse peoples living in profound harmony, where architecture blended seamlessly with the natural world, and advanced technology drew its power from the very atmosphere around them. Let us wander through the lingering echoes of this lost world, beginning with the ancient maps that stubbornly refuse to be silenced. Ancient cartographers from the 17th to the 19th centuries depicted Tartaria or Great Tartaria as a sprawling dominion, stretching from the edges of Europe across Siberia and deep into the heart of Asia, sometimes even encompassing significant parts of North America. These fragile parchments, meticulously preserved in archives like those of the British Library or the Library of Congress, display borders that defy our current understanding of geopolitics. For instance, a map from 1700 by Guillaume de Lille vividly illustrates Asia with Tartary dominating its northern expanses, its territories marked in bold hues that strongly suggest an independent, formidable power far beyond the nomadic tribes we are taught about in school. Why then did this vast empire vanish so completely from our collective memory? The answer may lie in a deliberate erasure by emerging European powers, who redrew territorial lines to claim lands and legacies that were not inherently theirs. As we trace these faded inkstrokes, the mud flood theory comes sharply into focus, a hypothesis that paints a picture of catastrophe not in distant antiquity, but alarmingly close to our own era, perhaps as recently as the 18th or 19th century. Proponents argue that a massive deluge of liquefied mud, triggered by unknown, immense forces, swept across the entire globe, burying thriving cities under many feet of viscous sediment. This was no natural flood of water. It was a thick, suffocating torrent that filled valleys, choked rivers, and entombed entire structures in a silent, overwhelming embrace. Evidence abounds in the very architecture we walk past every day without a second glance. Lividium Marti. Take the grand edifices of Chicago, for example, where the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition showcased buildings that, according to official narratives, were temporary plaster constructs. Yet, skeptics point to historical photographs showing these temporary marvels with intricate details that suggest they were in fact remnants of a pre-existing Tartarian metropolis, hastily repurposed after being partially exhumed from the mud. Dig deeper, and you discover buried windows and doors at current street level in cities worldwide, from Seattle's Pioneer Square, where underground tours reveal bricked-up basements that were once ground floors, to St. Petersburg in Russia, where excavations continually uncover layers of soil hiding ornate facades. In Europe, this perplexing phenomenon repeats itself. Paris's catacombs and London's sunken streets hint at a similar fate. The Dong Tower in Pennsylvania stands as a peculiar sentinel, its lower levels seemingly swallowed by the earth, with windows peering out from what should be subterranean depths. These anomalies are not isolated incidents. They form a coherent pattern, a global fingerprint of a monumental disaster that fundamentally reset civilizations. What then caused this catastrophic mud flood? Some theorize immense electromagnetic upheavals, perhaps from powerful solar flares or experimental technologies gone awry, liquefying the very soil in a planetary convulsion. Others whisper of deliberate acts, potent weapons wielded by rival powers intent on obliterating a superior culture. In this vanished empire, technology was not the clunky machinery of the Industrial Revolution, but something far more ethereal, drawn directly from the ether itself. Tartarian structures often featured majestic domes, towering spires, and prominent obelisks that theorists believe acted as colossal antennas, harvesting atmospheric electricity to power lights, provide heat, and even facilitate transportation without the need for wires or fossil fuels. Imagine city streets perpetually illuminated by an otherworldly glow, silent airships gliding effortlessly overhead, and advanced healing devices that mended bodies with vibrational frequencies. For evidence of this, look to the elaborate World's Fairs of the late 19th century, like the Panama Pacific International Exposition in San Francisco in 1915. Official history claims these were built from scratch in mere months, but photographs reveal an architectural sophistication, intricate mosaics, colossal statues, and engineering feats that utterly defy such timelines. Conspiracy circles suggest these were, in reality, excavated Tartarian ruins, hastily cleaned up and presented as new to mask their true origins. The very people of Tartaria add another profound layer of intrigue. This was, by all accounts, a multi-ethnic haven where diverse races mingled without the divisions that plague us today. Maps explicitly label regions like Muscovite Tartary or Chinese Tartary, implying a vast federation of cultures united under a single banner. But among them, it is said, walked giants, beings of extraordinary stature, some allegedly 15 to 30 feet tall. According to suppressed accounts, these Nephilim-like figures, drawn from biblical lore and echoed in global myths, are said to have constructed the megalithic wonders we now attribute to the hands of lesser men. Reports from early explorers, such as those in the journals of Russian travelers, describe encounters with colossal skeletons unearthed in Siberian mounds. In America, 19th-century newspapers chronicled finds of giant bones in Ohio's burial sites, only for them to mysteriously disappear into the vaults of institutions like the Smithsonian, allegedly to uphold Darwinian narratives that exclude such anomalies. Why this profound cover-up? The threads lead to powerful entities, the Russian Empire, the Vatican, and emerging industrialists who coveted Tartarian innovations. By the early 20th century, as oil barons like Rockefeller amassed their fortunes, free energy technologies posed a grave threat to their burgeoning monopolies. Thus, history was rewritten, Tartaria fragmented into uncivilized steppe lands, and its astounding achievements were credited to Greeks, Romans, or entirely invented cultures. The Bolshevik Revolution in Russia may have been a final brutal purge, systematically destroying records and artifacts to seal the secret forever. Even today's satellite imagery reveals star forts, geometrically precise bastions scattered across continents. The Tartaria theorists claim were not mere defenses, but powerful energy amplifiers. From Fort Monroe in Virginia to the star-shaped citadels in France, these structures align with ancient ley lines, suggesting a global grid of power that once connected all of humanity. As we sift through these buried truths, questions multiply like shadows in a dimly lit chamber. How did a civilization so immensely advanced succumb to mud? Was it an environmental cataclysm or sabotage from within? Accounts from indigenous oral histories, such as those of Siberian shamans, speak of great shaking and the earth swallowing cities, aligning with geological evidence of sudden, massive sediment deposits. In North America, Native American legends of the Old Ones, who built immense mounds, mirror Tartarian tales. Even in Australia, Aboriginal Dreamtime stories of flooded lands echo this pervasive theme. This interconnected web suggests Tartaria was not an isolated entity, but part of a worldwide network, perhaps even trading with Atlantis or Mu, other lost continents that suffered similar, devastating fates. The architectural fingerprints are undeniable. Consider the ornate capitals and columns found in colonial buildings across the Americas, styles that, according to some carbon dating quietly ignored, predate European arrival by centuries. In Brazil, the ruins of São Paulo's old districts show windows below current sidewalks, as if the entire city sank overnight. In Asia, ancient Chinese texts refer to Dakin, or Great Qin, sometimes interpreted as a Western empire that could be a Tartarian influence. The Silk Road, often romanticized as a mere trade route, may have been a vast Tartarian highway, lined with now buried way stations powered by lost technology. Giants too weave through this narrative, with tantalizing clues. Peruvian elongated skulls, Egyptian depictions of oversized pharaohs, and African folklore of towering ancestors all point to a race of colossal builders whose sheer proportions help explain the scale of megaliths like Baalbek's trilithon stones, each weighing over 1,000 tons. If Tartarians included these beings, living in harmony with smaller humans, their society must have been one of profound equity, free from the rigid hierarchies that define our modern world. Yet, post-flood, survivors were scattered, their immense knowledge fragmented, leading to the disjointed myths we cherish today. This exploration of Tartaria leaves us pondering the very fragility of history itself. What other empires lie hidden beneath our feet, waiting for a spade or a storm to reveal them. As the mud settles in our minds, one cannot help but wonder if the forces that buried Tartaria were not earthly at all, but celestial visitors like the Anunnaki, whose devastating wars might have triggered the very deluge that changed everything. In the cradle of Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers carve ancient paths through sun-baked plains, the city of Babylon rose like a defiant monument to human ambition, its towering ziggurats piercing the sky as if challenging the very gods. But what if the most famous of these structures, the Tower of Babel, was no mere architectural folly, no simple stack of bricks striving for divine approval? What if it concealed a blueprint for something far more explosive, quite literally a metaphor for rocket technology, a colossal launch pad disguised within myth, engineered by beings who traversed the stars? Begin with the Genesis account, which turns our narrative to the 11th chapter, where humanity, united by a single language, declares, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves." Divine intervention swiftly follows, bringing a confusion of tongues, a scattering of peoples, and an abrupt halt to this grand endeavor. Traditional interpretations frame this as a cautionary tale against human pride, a divine curb on collective hubris. Yet peel back this veneer, and perplexing anomalies emerge. The Hebrew word Megdallah, translated as tower, implies a fortified structure, but in Sumerian contexts, Babylon's cultural forebears, it evokes stepped pyramids, or Etemenanki, meaning house of the foundation of heaven and earth. Etemenanki, the historical ziggurat in Babylon dedicated to the god Marduk, stood approximately 300 feet tall, a 7-tiered behemoth crowned with a summit shrine. Was this just a temple or a tangible prototype for celestial ascension, a staging ground for vehicles capable of breaching the atmosphere? Theorists in the ancient astronaut school, popularized by shows like Ancient Aliens, posit precisely that the tower as a rocket silo or a launch facility, constructed under the direct guidance of extraterrestrial overseers, perhaps the Anunnaki themselves. Marduk, the Babylonian god of storms and creation, often depicted with serpentine dragons and thunderbolts, mirrors figures like Enlil or Enki in Sumerian lore, beings frequently tied to advanced engineering. Imagine then human survivors after the global flood, coerced or inspired by these entities, erecting a structure not for worship, but for interstellar travel. The phrase "reaching to the heavens" isn't poetic, it's a literal description of propulsion. Online discussions among alternative history enthusiasts echo this, suggesting the tower was a launch pad from which Marduk's rocket blasted off, scattering workers in linguistic chaos to conceal the advanced technology. Why else would ancient texts describe smoke, fire, and a top in the heavens, if not to evoke exhaust plumes and orbital aspirations? Probe further into comparative mythology, and parallels ignite further curiosity. The Sumerian epic of Etana tells of a king carried to heaven on an eagle's back, a motif repeated in Greek tales of Ganymede or Persian Simurgh legends. But were these eagles merely euphemisms for advanced aircraft? In Hindu scriptures, Vimanas, described as flying palaces propelled by mercury vortex engines, wage aerial wars, their descriptions cylindrical shapes, fiery trails, devastating payloads are strikingly akin to modern rocketry. The Mahabharata's Agni-Hotra weapons evoke sophisticated missiles, while the Vaimanika Shastra, though debated as a modern forgery, offers detailed accounts of anti-gravity propulsion. Could Babel's tower have been a Vimana base? Its confusion of languages, a deliberate tactic to fragment knowledge, preventing the unified replication of such powerful technology. Online threads from years past, humorously yet earnestly, question how ancient builders could believe a mere tower could reach heaven, unless it symbolized something engineered, like a multi-stage rocket. Archaeological footprints lend significant weight to this reinterpretation. Babylon's ruins, meticulously excavated by Robert Calderwood in the early 20th century, reveal Anunnaki's base, a square platform over 300 feet on each side, with ramps spiraling upward like a helical launch rail. Cuneiform tablets describe its construction using baked bricks and bitumen, a waterproof sealant ideal for containing propellants. Nearby, the Ishtar gates, adorned with glazed blue tiles, depict mythical beasts, perhaps symbolic guardians of forbidden knowledge. But consider the site's precise alignment, oriented to cardinal directions with astronomical precision, mirroring Egyptian pyramids or Mayan observatories. Was this for mere stargazing or for targeting celestial coordinates? Theories extend to frequency technology. The tower as a colossal resonator, using sound waves to levitate massive stones or generate anti-gravity fields, as suggested in recent online analyses linking Babel to vibrational engineering that could bend gravity for space travel. Levitation myths abound, from Tibetan monks allegedly lifting boulders with trumpets, to Coral Castle's Edward Leedskill-Ning claiming ancient secrets, all hinting at lost acoustics potentially harnessed in Babel. Now infuse the narrative with the edge of conspiracy. Why deliberately scatter languages if not to compartmentalize expertise? A unified tongue enabled rapid technological advancement. Division ensured secrets remained buried. Emerging truth websites reframe the tower as a huge ship, a starfaring vessel whose launch caused linguistic fallout, perhaps from electromagnetic pulses disrupting neural pathways. Modern parallels abound. NASA's rocket programs echo Babel's ambition, with launches evoking biblical pillars of fire. Even AI ideology draws from this myth, viewing unified technology as a path to godhood, only to be thwarted by ethical confusions. Online essays explore Babel as a metaphor for civilization's overreach, but in alien theory circles it is literal, a space elevator prototype, a carbon nanotube precursor tethering Earth to orbit. Venturing into wilder territories, some posit a tower as a stargate, a portal activated by harmonic frequencies, aligning with quantum theories of wormholes. New evidence from fringe videos claims Babel's coordinates overlap with ley lines, global energy grids tapping Earth's magnetic field for interdimensional jumps. Online debates discuss pre-flood technological societies, suggesting Babel rebuilt antediluvian rocketry, only for divine or alien intervention to reset progress, echoing Noah's deluge as a prior confusion. Babylonian astronomy, charting planets with uncanny accuracy, implies observational technology far beyond the naked eye, perhaps telescopes or data from orbital scouts. Cultural ripples extend globally. African Dogon tribes' Sirius knowledge, Mayan calendars predicting eclipses, all potentially disseminated from Babel's diaspora. The scattering birthed diversity, but at the cost of unity. Religions splintered, technology siloed. In this light, Babel isn't a downfall, it's engineered balkanization, preserving elite control over propulsion secrets. As doubts creep into mainstream acceptance, with historians decrying these as pseudoscience, citing Anunnaki's religious function, one cannot ignore the profound intrigue. Carbon dating places its construction around 600 BC under Nebuchadnezzar II, but myths suggest far older origins, perhaps from mud-flung ruins. This Babel Odyssey stirs the imagination, blending brick with booster rockets, gods with engineers. If the tower hid launch codes within its tiers, what other biblical metaphors mask technological marvels, like Noah's Ark as a genetic vault, beckoning us to the underground havens where survivors awaited rebirth? Noah's flood, that biblical torrent of divine wrath, has long been etched into our collective psyche as a tale of one man's unwavering obedience amidst global annihilation, a solitary wooden vessel adrift on raging waters, safeguarding pairs of every living creature. But venture with me into a reimagined chronicle, where the Ark transforms from a single ship into an intricate network of subterranean strongholds, hidden cities burrowed deep within the earth to outlast the deluge. These underground realms, scattered across the globe like forgotten veins in the planet's body, challenge us to rethink survival itself, not as a perilous voyage across waves, but as a profound descent into the very womb of the world, where both hibernation and ingenuity preserved life against apocalyptic odds. Let your mind descend into Cappadocia's enigmatic landscape in modern-day Turkey, where the soft, tough rock yields to human hands, like clay to a potter. Here lies Derinkoyu, an astonishing underground metropolis discovered in the 1960s, plunging 18 levels deep, over 200 feet into the earth, and capable of sheltering 20,000 souls, complete with livestock, granaries, and even wine presses. Imagine narrow tunnels snaking through perfectly ventilated chambers, massive millstone doors rolling shut to seal invaders out, and wells tapping hidden aquifers for fresh water. Built perhaps as early as the 8th century BC by the Phrygians or Hittites, Derinkoyu wasn't just a hideout from marauders. Its meticulous design screams long-term habitation, with schools, churches, and stables, suggesting a self-sustaining ecosystem. Could this be a remnant of Noah's larger strategy? Theories abound that such cities were pre-flood bunkers, where selected families entered a state of suspended animation, hibernation induced by ancient herbs or advanced technologies to weather the impending storm. The Epic of Gilgamesh, Sumeria's precursor to the biblical flood, hints at similar preparations, with Utnapishtim advised to abandon possessions and preserve all life. As we tunnel further, Göbekli Tepe emerges as another crucial puzzle piece, perched on a Turkish hilltop, yet hinting at far deeper secrets. This 12,000-year-old site, predating Stonehenge by millennia, features T-shaped pillars intricately carved with animals, lions, foxes, birds, as if meticulously cataloguing species for preservation. Buried deliberately under tons of soil around 10,000 BC, just after the Younger Dryas cataclysm, it raises profound questions. Was this an above-ground ark blueprint, a temple where shamans orchestrated the migration underground? Radiocarbon dating places its construction amidst massive climate shifts, when comet fragments may have pummeled Earth, triggering widespread floods and rapid ice melt. Proponents of alternative timelines suggest Göbekli Tepe's carvings encode sophisticated flood survival strategies, with enclosures resembling gene banks where seeds and DNA were meticulously stored. Nearby underground dwellings in the region, like those in Kaymaklı, connect via miles of tunnels, forming a vast network that could have housed entire communities in cryogenic-like stasis, their bodies cooled in constant subterranean temperatures to mimic deep hibernation. Shift your perspective to the slopes of Mount Ararat, where the Durapanar Formation, a boat-shaped anomaly, discovered in 1959, stirs endless debate. Measuring approximately 500 feet long, matching Genesis's arc dimensions, this geological oddity of basalt and limestone has been scanned with ground-penetrating radar, revealing intriguing internal compartments. Ron Wyatt's controversial excavations in the 1980s claimed petrified wood and metal rivets, though mainstream science dismisses it as a natural landslide. Yet in our reframed narrative, Durapanar might mark an entrance to a colossal below-ground complex, a mountain arc where surface features masked deeper vaults. Turkish folklore speaks of hidden caves on Ararat housing ancient relics, and seismic surveys hint at voids beneath. If Noah's mission was total preservation, these underground arcs, insulated from tsunamis and mud flows, offered perfect havens, with natural filtration systems recycling air and water for months or even years. Expand the map beyond Turkey, and subterranean echoes resound worldwide, weaving a global tapestry of flood-proof sanctuaries. In Malta's Hippodrome of Halsaflieni, a 3-level necropolis dating from 4000 BC, acoustic chambers amplify voices to trance-inducing levels, perhaps used for rituals inducing deep sleep states. Peruvian cholpas, tower-like tombs, connect to extensive underground passages where mummies were preserved in fetal positions, symbolically representing rebirth post-cataclysm. Even North America's Lovelock Cave in Nevada yielded giant skeletons and duck decoys, tied to Paiute legends of red-haired giants fleeing a great flood into vast caverns. These sites share striking motifs: ventilation shafts mimicking chimneys, food storage silos, and sophisticated defensive mechanisms like booby traps. Could they form a coordinated system engineered by a pre-flood civilization acutely aware of impending doom? Astronomical alignments in many, such as Derinkoyu's shafts tracking solstices, suggest precise calendars for emerging when skies cleared. These theories linking these to Tartaria's mud flood add another layer of intrigue, positing that liquefied Earth from immense electromagnetic upheavals or directed energy weaponry buried surface cities, driving survivors below. In this view, Noah's Ark symbolizes a collective underground migration, with 2x2 representing balanced ecosystems meticulously stored in hibernation pods. Ancient texts, like the Book of Enoch, describe watchers, angelic beings, teaching metallurgy and botany for such preparations, echoing Anunnaki guidance. Hibernation isn't far-fetched. Modern science revives tardigrades from decades of dormancy, and indigenous shamans used ayahuasca for visionary states mimicking suspended animation. Imagine chambers lined with crystals regulating biorhythms, preserving flora and fauna in vast seed vaults, much like Svalbard's modern echo. Mainstream archaeology attributes Derinkoyu to Byzantine Christians fleeing persecution, not floods, with no direct flood debris in its strata. Yet anomalies persist: unexplained radiation in some caves, elongated skulls suggesting hybrid lineages. Conspiracy whispers claim Vatican archives hide maps of these arks, suppressed to maintain specific religious narratives. If true, these underground cities weren't mere escapes, but carefully orchestrated resets, where post-flood societies emerged amnesiac, rebuilding atop buried pasts. Ponder the human element. Families huddled in flickering torchlight, reciting genealogies as waters thundered above, their sleep deepened by potent herbal elixirs. Upon awakening, languages evolved in isolation, birthing Babel's staggering diversity. This reimagining elevates Noah from lone sailor to architect of hidden realms, his flood a metaphor for mud-choked cataclysms that forced humanity inward. As torchlight fades in these cavernous tales, one cannot help but question, if underground arks safeguarded life through deluge, what secrets do they still hold beneath Egypt's sands, where pyramids might conceal entrances to even grander subterranean pyramids of power? What if the monumental pyramids weren't merely elaborate tombs, but sophisticated machines pulsing with immense energy, painstakingly rebuilt by a civilization desperately clinging to the fragile threads of antediluvian knowledge? Envision the chaotic aftermath of the Great Deluge, a cataclysm that profoundly reshaped continents, as we've pondered in tales of Noah and Atlantis. Egypt, with its fertile Nile Valley, became a crucial haven for survivors, a phoenix majestically rising from the watery chaos. Hieroglyphs and ancient oral traditions subtly hint at this rebirth. The god Thoth, revered as the scribe of the heavens, is said to have descended to restore cosmic order, imparting profound wisdom that would echo through the ages. But was Thoth a mere deity, or a bridge to older, more powerful entities? Some whispers connect him directly to Enki of the Anunnaki, that ancient cadre of beings who allegedly engineered humanity's fate. The Emerald Tablets, those elusive slabs of esoteric lore attributed to Thoth, speak chillingly of cataclysms where the dark waters came in, and advanced civilizations crumbled, only to be meticulously rebuilt with profound alchemical secrets. These texts, veiled in dense metaphor, describe harnessing the very fire of the universe to manipulate matter, perhaps a coded blueprint for the pyramids themselves, reconstructed post-flood to tap into Earth's hidden energies. As the moon casts long shadows over the Giza Plateau, turn your gaze to the Great Pyramid of Khufu, its magnificent limestone casing once gleaming like a blinding beacon. Conventional history deems it a tomb, purportedly built around 250–80 BC, yet profound anomalies abound. Why the astonishingly precise alignment with Orion's belt, or the intricate mathematical encodings of pi and the golden ratio embedded within its dimensions? Enter the provocative theory: this was not a grave but a colossal power plant, a resonator channeling Earth's telluric vibrations into usable energy. Christopher Dunn, an engineer turned theorist, proposes the pyramid as an enormous hydrogen generator, where complex chemical reactions within its chambers produced electricity funneled through shafts that functioned like sophisticated waveguides. Picture the Queen's chamber as a reaction vessel, meticulously mixing acids and bases to release hydrogen gas, which then ignited in the King's chamber to create powerful acoustic waves or potent electromagnetic pulses. Nikola Tesla himself marveled at the pyramids, firmly believing they harnessed limitless energy from the ionosphere, much like his own Wardenclyffe Tower. In this view, the post-cataclysmic Egyptians, as heirs to Atlantean or Tartarian knowledge, repurposed these monoliths to power their advanced society, illuminating temples, aiding agriculture, or even facilitating healing through vibrational frequencies. But how did such grandeur survive the devastating flood that purportedly ravaged the land? Crucial clues lie etched in stone, particularly on the enigmatic Sphinx, that lion-headed guardian crouching majestically before the pyramids. Geologist Robert Schoch's water erosion hypothesis fundamentally shakes the foundations of established chronology. The Sphinx's body displays deep undulating fissures and rounded contours, unequivocally indicative of prolonged rainfall, not the sharp pitting of wind-blown sand. These vertical channels, meticulously gouged into the limestone enclosure walls, strongly suggest exposure to heavy precipitation around 7000 to 5000 BC during the wetter Saharan pluvial period following the Younger Dryas cataclysm. Mainstream Egyptologists counter that dew or sporadic rains over millennia could account for it. Yet, the erosion's intensity, significantly deeper on the western side and tapering eastward, points compellingly to massive flooding, perhaps tsunamis surging from the Mediterranean or Nile overflows greatly amplified by global meltwater. If true, the Sphinx substantially predates the pyramids, carved by an earlier, far more ancient civilization whose works were partially submerged and then subsequently reclaimed, its leonine form perhaps symbolizing the age of Leo in the processional cycle, roughly 10,500 BC. Drift deeper into this profound riddle. The pharaohs themselves, those god-kings who oversaw the pyramids' construction or restoration, were they mere mortals, or were they descendants of the Anunnaki, carrying extraterrestrial bloodlines through the flood survivors? Conspiracy circles buzz with tales of elongated skulls found in royal tombs, suggesting hybrid genetics, taller statures, extended lifespans, and psychic abilities inherited from beings like Enki or Enlil. Akhenaten, with his unusual physique and monotheistic revolution, is often cited as compelling evidence, his elongated head androgynous form mirroring Syrian or reptilian traits frequently described in Anunnaki lore. These rulers, it's whispered, guarded alchemical knowledge from the emerald tablets, using pyramid energies for immortality rituals or to subtly control the masses. The Book of the Dead, with its intricate spells for navigating the afterlife, might encode post-cataclysmic survival technology, vibrational codes to attune the soul to higher frequencies, thus evading the chaos that drowned their predecessors. Consider the pyramid's internal architecture, a labyrinth of shafts and chambers that utterly defies simple tomb logic. The Grand Gallery, with its corbelled ceiling and precise acoustics, could amplify sound waves to generate piezoelectric effects in quartz-laden granite, converting pressure into electricity. Recent explorations reveal hidden voids, like the 9-meter corridor discovered in 2023 via muon tomography, hinting at undiscovered rooms where sophisticated energy devices might lie dormant. And the subterranean chamber, delving below the bedrock, taps into aquifers, perhaps channeling water for electrolytic processes in Dunn's hydrogen model. Post-cataclysm, As floodwaters receded, these structures could have stabilized the Nile's floods, powering irrigation, or even anti-gravity technology for lifting massive stones, echoes of levitation lore found in ancient texts. Yet, shadows of destruction linger. The Emerald Tablets warn of great wars among the gods, where Anunnaki factions clashed, unleashing forces that literally cracked the earth. Did rival powers sabotage Egypt's resurgence, flooding the land anew to bury forbidden knowledge? Erosion on the Sphinx's base, with its water-worn gullies, supports this not gradual wear but cataclysmic inundation, eroding softer strata while selectively sparing harder ones. Graham Hancock and others argue this pushes Egyptian civilization back millennia, aligning with Plato's Atlantis tales of a drowned advanced society influencing the Nile's rebirth. The pharaoh's divine claims descended from Ra or Osiris might mask an Anunnaki heritage, with obelisks and temples functioning as antennas in a global energy grid. Elongated skulls, from Paracas to Egyptian nobility, suggest genetic anomalies, perhaps engineered for enhanced cognition to wield pyramid powers. Alchemy, central to Thoth's teachings, could be the key, transmuting base elements into gold or powerful elixirs, all powered by pyramid-generated fields. Yet, why conceal this profound knowledge? Perhaps to maintain control, as post-flood societies fragmented, with elites hoarding technology to rule as gods. As night deepens over the vast desert, these enigmas lull us. Were the pyramids beacons of hope amidst ruin, or instruments of dominion? The sands hold more, from hidden chambers to lost tablets, teasing truth that could rewrite our very origins. This Egyptian odyssey stirs visions of colossal beings striding the Nile. But if pharaohs carried Anunnaki blood, what of the giants whispered in myths, whose colossal footprints might lead us to Nephilim echoes in the next veil of history? Tonight, let us meander through the mists of myth and the shadowy corridors of concealed evidence, pondering the Nephilim, those colossal figures whispered about in sacred texts, their immense footprints allegedly stamped across continents, only to be meticulously swept away by the brooms of official history. Were they mere metaphors for human folly, or were they flesh and blood giants, whose very existence challenges the fundamental pillars of our understanding? In the book of Genesis, chapter 6, we encounter these enigmatic sons of God, who descended upon the daughters of men, begetting heroes of old, men of renown. The Hebrew term Nephilim translates to fallen ones or giants, evoking powerful images of beings 15 to 30 feet tall, wielding immense strength that could fell cedars or reshape mountains. The Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text revered in Ethiopian Orthodoxy, expands upon this tale. These watchers, angelic rebels led by figures like Azazel and Semiaza, taught humanity forbidden arts, metallurgy, astrology, warfare before their hybrid offspring ravaged the earth, ultimately prompting the Great Flood as divine retribution. But why relegate them solely to allegory? Cross-cultural echoes suggest otherwise. Greek titans clashing with Olympians, Norse Jotun frost giants, Hindu deities battling devas, all portray oversized humanoids locked in cosmic strife. Native American lore from the Paiute speaks chillingly of red-haired, CT car giants in Nevada's Lovelock Cave, cannibals defeated and burned, their oversized artifacts unearthed in the early 20th century. Even African Zulu myths recount the Enzima, towering ancestors who, it is said, literally shaped the land. These parallels are not mere coincidences. They hint at a shared ancestral memory, a global diaspora of giants scattered by ancient cataclysms. Now let us sift through the sands of time for tangible traces, those elusive bones that fuel endless speculation. In the 19th century, American newspapers brimmed with reports of colossal skeletons unearthed during the relentless westward expansion. The New York Times in 1885 described a 7-foot skeleton discovered in a Wisconsin mound, accompanied by distinctive copper tools. Ohio's burial sites yielded 8-foot remains with double rows of teeth, as chronicled in historical gazettes. Richard Dewhurst's book, The Ancient Giants Who Ruled America, compiles hundreds of such accounts, from Missouri's 12-foot warriors to California's 9-foot mummies with distinctive red hair, suggesting a pre-Columbian race of titans who constructed earthworks and mined copper. Beyond America, China's Shaohe village revealed 5,000-year-old skeletons averaging 6 feet 3 inches, veritable giants by ancient standards buried with jade and pottery, implying elite status. Ecuador's giants of the Amazon legends align with oversized axes found in the region, while Sardinia's Nuragic culture left statues of 9-foot warriors. These remarkable discoveries tease at a worldwide phenomenon where giants were not mere anomalies, but powerful rulers, architects of megaliths like Baalbek's 1,000-ton stones, structures simply unattributable to ordinary humans. Yet as we chase these colossal phantoms, a veil of suppression descends, thick with intrigue and institutional silence. Enter the Smithsonian Institution, that venerable repository of knowledge, now accused in conspiracy circles of orchestrating a grand cover-up. Dewhurst alleges that in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Smithsonian systematically collected and then vanished thousands of giant skeletons, shipping them to Washington, only for them to disappear into basements or incinerators. A 1919 report from the institution itself mentions 18-foot skeletons found in Alabama's Crump's Cave, sent for study, but never publicly displayed. Why the profound secrecy? Theorists point to Darwinian evolution, admitting giants would upend established timelines, suggesting devolution or extraterrestrial intervention, clashing directly with emerging scientific dogmas. Online discussions nuance this. While perhaps not a full cover-up, the Smithsonian did reclassify or misplace anomalous finds to fit prevailing narratives, perhaps influenced by funding from elites wary of biblical validations. Even Reuters fact-checks acknowledge the persistence of these claims, debunking viral hoaxes like a 2014 satirical article claiming admissions of destruction. Yet the myth endures, fueled by declassified documents hinting at classified anthropology. Delve into the genetic enigma, and the Nephilim transform from myth to potential hybrid reality. Tied to the Anunnaki, these giants are posited as offspring of alien visitors and humans. Their elongated skulls and robust frames echo Paracas mummies in Peru or Egyptian nobility like Akhenaten. DNA anomalies, unexplained Arsh negative blood factors, and extravertebrae suggest non-terrestrial lineage. In hidden history, they coexisted in Tartaria's harmonious empire, builders of star forts and vast energy grids, until cataclysms like the mud flood buried their legacy. Native legends from the Hopi to the Cherokee describe star people descending, birthing giants who taught agriculture before mysteriously vanishing. A recent political twist. Right-wing narratives link Smithsonian disdain to anti-biblical agendas, claiming giants prove Genesis literalism. But counterpoints abound. Wikipedia catalogues many giant reports as hoaxes, like the Cardiff giant of 1869, a carved gypsum fraud. Skeletal misidentifications, from mastodon bones to tall but human remains, explain others. Online historians debunk Smithsonian myths, noting no evidence of systematic destruction, only poor record-keeping in early days. Still, the allure persists. Vatican archives, too, allegedly hoard giant relics, as per recent social media buzz, guarding Enochian texts that detail their fall. In Nevada's Lovelock Cave, 1911 excavations uncovered 7-foot skeletons with red hair and artifacts like oversized sandals, though debated as Paiute exaggerations. These threads weave into our prior explorations. The Anunnaki as the sons of God, their wars triggering floods that drowned giant kin, survivors retreating to underground arks or Egyptian sands. Beings who might have walked among us, their stories silenced to preserve fragile worldviews. The evidence, scattered and intensely contested, invites endless wonder. What if unlocking their secrets reveals our own hybrid heritage? This saga of shadowed giants leaves us gazing upward, but if Nephilim bones lie concealed, what overlooked proofs await in the soil, beckoning us to the byways of bygone science and overlooked artifacts in our next whisper of the past? Let us first assemble the cornerstone of this profound puzzle, the ubiquitous flood myths that span every corner of the globe, numbering over 200 distinct accounts, each powerfully echoing a shared catastrophe. From the Epic of Gilgamesh in ancient Mesopotamia, where Utnapishtim survives a divinely ordained inundation, to the Hindu Puranas detailing Manu's ark-like vessel pulled by a divine fish, these stories are not isolated folklore, but potential oral records of very real events. James Palloff's analysis reveals that 95% of these myths describe a global flood, often with survivors in boats preserving life amidst divine wrath or overwhelming natural fury. Scientifically, this aligns with compelling evidence from the Younger Dryas period, a sudden climatic snap around 12,000 years ago, marked by massive meltwater pulses from retreating ice sheets that could have caused widespread global flooding. Geologists point to marine fossils atop mountains like those in the Himalayas or Andes as remnants of ancient seabeds, thrust upward by tectonic forces, but flood theorists argue these indicate rapid submersion and uplift during a cataclysm. Massive fossil graveyards, such as the Burgess Shale or Karoo Basin, preserve exquisite soft-bodied creatures in sudden burial layers, strongly suggesting catastrophic sediment deposition rather than gradual accumulation over eons. Even mainstream sources like the Smithsonian acknowledge sedimentary layers worldwide that hint at mega-floods, though they attribute them to localized events during the last ice age. Yet why do cultures from Tibet to the Maori of New Zealand recount strikingly similar deluges, complete with ark-like vessels and rainbow covenants? Adrian May theorizes these stem from ancient observations of fossilized marine life far inland, inspiring tales of oceanic invasions. In Tibet, geologists have linked folk stories of great floods to actual landscapes scarred by ancient tsunamis or glacial outbursts, blending myth with geology in ways that suggest a unified event distorted through the lens of time. Skeptics, like those on online forums, counter that no geological evidence supports a single global flood, citing insufficient water volumes and layered strata showing multiple distinct eras, but flood geology proponents highlight exquisite preservation in fossil records, soft tissues intact as proof of rapid watery entombment, not millions of years of slow decay. This mosaic piece alone invites us to wonder, if over 200 cultures independently preserve distinct flood memories, could they all stem from one singular cataclysm, fragmented by migration and the passage of time? Shifting our gaze to the scorched enigmas of vitrified stones, we encounter ruins where rocks have melted like wax under impossible heat, defying conventional explanations. Over 60 ancient forts in Scotland, such as Dun Lagaid or Tapa North, exhibit walls fused into glassy slag, requiring temperatures exceeding 1,000 °C, far beyond what Iron Age bonfires could ever achieve. Skeptoid explores these vitrified forts, noting their glassy texture results from intense, sustained heat, perhaps from deliberate firing or unknown weaponry. A nature study reproduces this melting, suggesting acoustic or chemical methods, but alternative theories link it directly to ancient nuclear blasts or powerful plasma discharges during cataclysms. In India, Mohenjo-Daro's ruins show similar vitrification, with bricks melted on one side as if by a directional explosion, fueling claims of atomic warfare, described in the Mahabharata. Online forums debunk nuclear theories, attributing vitrification to controlled fires for fortification. Yet, geochemical evidence from Scottish sites indicates rapid, uneven melting, inconsistent with bonfires. Thermoluminescence dating places some vitrification from the late 3rd millennium BC to the 1st millennium AD, overlapping with proposed cataclysm timelines. A project using these forts as analogues for nuclear waste glasses highlights their remarkable durability, implying ancient technology mimicking modern vitrification processes. Briganti's Nation notes the wide dating spread, from 700 BC to 900 AD, suggesting multiple events or a prolonged phenomenon. An urban experiment in 2018 successfully recreated vitrification, confirming the need for extremely high temperatures but leaving the original cause of these ancient sites mysterious. These glassy scars, scattered from Europe to Asia, pose a profound riddle. Were they battle remnants of psychic or technological wars, their extreme heat signatures? Now consider the buried buildings that dot modern cities, silent witnesses to a possible mud flood that entombed entire levels beneath sediment. The mud flood theory posits a global deluge of liquefied earth in the 18th or 19th century, burying Tartarian architecture under many feet of mud. Evidence includes sunken windows at current street level in Chicago, Seattle, and St. Petersburg, where basements appear as former ground floors. Online articles highlight strange tunnels and staircase anomalies as proof of sudden burial, not gradual urban development. An online discussion ties this to younger Dryas floods with mud deposits over ancient sites. Proponents cite brownstones with submerged entrances and World's Fairs repurposing excavated ruins. Discover magazine notes Tartaria's mud floods buried the empire, leaving standing structures as compelling evidence. Online videos explore these anomalies, questioning official explanations like raised street levels for sewage systems. A post on social media platforms about the mud flood theory lists buried buildings worldwide as archaeological proof. Social media groups share images of excavated sites, claiming electromagnetic upheavals caused the liquefaction. Skeptics argue natural sedimentation or urban planning accounts for it, but the uniformity across continents remains profoundly intriguing. This buried layer, often ignored in conventional digs, could fundamentally rewrite timelines if examined as cataclysmic debris. Delving into the contentious realm of giant bones, we confront allegations of institutional cover-ups that have silenced evidence of Nephilim-like beings. Smithsonian Magazine reports giants in China, with 5,000-year-old skeletons over 6 feet tall, but conspiracy theorists claim far larger finds were suppressed. Richard Dewhurst's book compiles newspaper reports of 8 to 12-foot skeletons vanishing into Smithsonian vaults. A New Republic article links right-wing disdain for the Smithsonian to these giant myths, blending politics with pseudoscience. Online videos explore the conspiracy, citing 1919 reports of 18-foot bones. Books on ancient giants allege 15 years of suppression. Online discussions debunk these as racial brain collection apologies misapplied, but the sheer persistence of such accounts fuels persistent doubt. If real, these bones suggest pre-flood giants deliberately overlooked to maintain historical orthodoxy. Finally, the ethereal notion of psychic wars between Atlantis and Lemuria adds a metaphysical dimension where mental energies allegedly triggered physical destructions, leading to mud floods. Social media groups describe Lemurians and Atlanteans clashing in vibrational battles that purportedly sank both lands. A post details Lemuria as a feminine water nation versus Atlantis as masculine tech, their conflict causing continental shifts. Online videos pit Atlantis against Lemuria in wars over 10,000 years ago, tied to Anunnaki influence. Edgar Cayce's psychic readings predict Atlantis rising, linking it to Lemurian conflicts. Wikipedia traces Lemuria to a debunked zoological theory, but esoteric circles view it as a real continent. Big Think explores flood myths' origins, potentially from such wars. Online debates discuss Atlantis and Lemuria as distinct, with psychic battles in lore. A blog compares their cultural reflections, with wars causing mutual downfall. Online channels speculate vibrational damage from these conflicts led to mud floods, blending psychic with geological theories. A site on Mu Lemuria attributes its demise to cataclysms from such wars. Though often dismissed as pseudoscience, these narratives connect to vitrified sites as potential energy weapon scars. As we close this archival exploration, the puzzle remains incomplete, its many pieces hinting at a deeply veiled past. But if these overlooked evidences collectively point to a unified truth, what counter-arguments and open questions still linger in the shadows, awaiting our scrutiny in the reflections ahead? What if the unified cataclysm we've imagined, binding Noah's deluge to Atlantis's plunge and Tartaria's mud-choked fate, is less a seamless truth and more a mosaic of human longing for hidden order? Imagine for a moment standing at the crossroads of myth and science, where the allure of a single apocalyptic event beckons, yet the signposts of time point in wildly divergent directions. Why, one might ask, do the chronologies stubbornly refuse to align? Take Noah's flood, pinned by biblical scholars to around 248 BC based on genealogical calculations in Genesis, a date echoed in some creationist timelines, but dismissed by geologists as utterly incompatible with sedimentary records showing no singular global inundation layer. Contrast this with Plato's Atlantis, described as sinking 9,000 years before Solon, roughly 11,500 years ago, tying it loosely to the younger Dryas cold snap. This was a real climatic event, around 12,800 to 11,700 years ago, marked by comet impacts and meltwater floods, yet still lacking direct, undeniable evidence of a continental submersion. Then there's Tartaria's purported mud flood, often dated to the 18th or 19th century by conspiracy enthusiasts who cite buried building levels as proof of a recent planetary reset. But why these vast chronological gaps? Could these be separate echoes of localized disasters, amplified through oral traditions into universal tales, rather than mere fragments of one singular cataclysm? The Epic of Gilgamesh, predating the Bible by centuries, recounts a Mesopotamian flood around 2900 BC, while Hindu Puranas place Manu's deluge in a cyclical timeline spanning eons, disparities that strongly suggest cultural borrowing or independent inventions inspired by real but regional floods, such as those from glacial lake outbursts or tsunamis. As I ponder this, a whisper arises: might the mismatches stem from distorted transmissions, where lunar months were mistaken for solar years, or priestly records embellished for moral emphasis? Yet science offers a sobering lens. No uniform global flood deposit exists in ice cores, ocean sediments, or tree rings, which would scream of such an event if it were singular and recent. Delving into the heart of these theories, the mud flood hypothesis invites particular skepticism. Its claims of a liquefied earth burying Tartaria's grandeur under sediment sound poetic, yet they crumble under rigorous scrutiny. Proponents point to sunken windows in 19th-century buildings across Chicago or Seattle as evidence of a cataclysmic overlay, but urban historians counter with practical explanations. Streets were raised for sewage systems, flood control, or to combat disease in low-lying areas, a well-documented process in cities like Boston's Back Bay reclamation. Tartaria itself, far from a lost utopia of giants and free energy, was simply a cartographic term for vast unexplored regions of Central Asia and Siberia on old maps, a placeholder for the unknown rather than a suppressed empire. Conspiracy circles weave in World's Fairs as repurposed ruins, but records clearly show these were temporary plaster constructs, dismantled post-event, not excavated relics. The theory's allure lies in its romantic rebellion against official history, yet it falters on geological grounds. No widespread mud layers from the 1800s appear in soil cores, and electromagnetic upheavals, proposed as triggers, lack empirical support. Dismissed as pseudoscience akin to flat Earth claims, one cannot help but muse, if such a reset occurred so recently, why is there no survivor accounts or photographic evidence from the era's burgeoning technology? The gaps tease at fabrication, perhaps born from 19th-century nationalism or modern disillusionment with authority. Turning to the fiery specter of ancient nuclear wars, where Anunnaki allegedly unleashed atomic fury, the narrative captivates with its sci-fi flair, but wilts under scientific fire. Vitrified forts in Scotland or melted sands in Mohenjo-Daro are cited as blast residues. Yet archaeologists attribute Scottish vitrification to intentional firing for structural strength, reproducible in experiments with wood fuels, reaching 1000 degrees. Mohenjo-Daro's irradiated skeletons stem from misinterpretations, radiation levels are normal, and fused bricks likely result from kiln accidents or invasions with fire arrows, not nukes. Zechariah Sitchin's Anunnaki translations, foundational to these theories, face harsh critique from Sumerologists like Michael Heiser, who argue Sitchin misconstrued cuneiform, turning Anunnaki Sumerian deities into aliens from Nibiru, a planet unconfirmed by astronomy, its supposed 3,600-year orbit defying orbital mechanics. Even if ancient texts like the Mahabharata describe weapons brighter than 1,000 suns, these are poetic metaphors for conventional warfare or natural phenomena, not evidence of fission bombs, as no fallout isotopes like cesium-137 appear in relevant strata. The intrigue lingers, though. Could cultural memories of volcanic eruptions or meteor strikes have morphed into tales of godly wrath? Science demands testable proof, and here the absence speaks volumes, relegating such wars to the realm of compelling fiction rather than verifiable fact. Amid these rebuttals, the giant Nephilim loom as another fragile pillar, their skeletons purportedly suppressed by institutions like the Smithsonian. Yet, investigations reveal most giant reports as 19th-century hoaxes, like the Cardiff Giant, a gypsum carving exposed as fraud, or misidentified dinosaur bones. Human stature variations exist. Ancient Chinese skeletons average taller due to nutrition, but nothing approaches biblical proportions without pathological conditions like gigantism, which rarely survives long. One ponders, do these myths reflect awe at ancestors' megalithic feats, exaggerated over generations, or a psychological need for larger-than-life heroes? Psychic wars between Atlantis and Lemuria add ethereal spice, but they evaporate under scrutiny. While Edgar Cayce's readings predicting Atlantis's rise have repeatedly failed, these narratives enchant, yet they raise a poignant query. In weaving such tales, are we seeking unity in chaos, or merely projecting modern anxieties onto the past? As these counterpoints swirl, leaving us with more questions than closures, why the chronological chasms, the evidential voids? They remind us that history's beauty lies in its very elusiveness. Perhaps the true cataclysm is our endless quest for meaning amidst fragments. This introspective pause beckons us forward. If ancient divisions echo in today's world, how do these veiled histories connect to our modern fractures of war and discord, whispering warnings from the shadows? What if the deluge that shattered unified civilizations wasn't a singular, past event, but a sinister blueprint for ongoing manipulation, where hidden hands perpetually foment chaos to prevent humanity from reclaiming its lost harmony? Picture the world map as a scarred parchment, its lines drawn not just by geography, but by the invisible inks of ancient rivalries reborn. In our earlier whispers, we pondered how the scattering after Babel, or the floods of Noah, sowed seeds of linguistic and cultural schisms, designed perhaps by celestial overseers to keep humanity fragmented. Fast forward to our current era, and those seeds have blossomed into thorny vines, entangling nations. Consider the Russia-Ukraine conflict, now grinding into its fourth year as of October 2025, where territorial disputes and historical grievances fuel a devastating war that has claimed countless lives and irrevocably redrawn global alliances. Is this mere geopolitics, or a modern echo of Anunnaki-style factionalism, where Enlil's authoritarian grip mirrors the strongman tactics we observe today? Analysts from the International Crisis Group highlight how this strife, alongside escalating tensions in the Middle East, think the Gaza-Israel clashes, spilling into broader regional conflicts, exemplifies a volatile cocktail of resource grabs and ideological rifts. Sudan's civil war tearing through the Horn of Africa with famine and displacement, or the Democratic Republic of Congo's endless resource-driven violence, reflect patterns of division that feel eerily premeditated, as if invisible architects are meticulously ensuring no global unity emerges from the ashes. Even India-Pakistan skirmishes over Kashmir simmer on a border feud that tragically divides peoples who once shared deeper cultural roots. Much like the post-flood scattering that birthed rival tongues and tribes, these are not isolated fires. They are a global blaze relentlessly fanned by what some call the New World Order, a shadowy agenda to maintain control through perpetual conflict, echoing the biblical confusion that halted humanity's towering ascent to the heavens. But let's peer behind the curtain, where conspiracies thrive like vines in untended gardens, linking these modern fractures to ancient upheavals. In 2025, as viral theories sweep the internet faster than ever, fueled by AI-deepened echo chambers and social media algorithms, we see whispers of ancient cataclysms resurfacing in contemporary lore. Take the surge in claims that governments wield weather as weapons, a notion that exploded after Texas floods earlier this year, with far-right voices alleging HAARP-like technology manipulated storms to displace populations or test control mechanisms. This mirrors the Anunnaki's supposed nuclear meltdowns on ice caps to trigger floods. Could today's climate anomalies be engineered resets, cunningly disguised as natural disasters to sow division? Surveys from this year reveal a startling uptick in such beliefs, with over 1,000 respondents agreeing that hurricanes like those battering the Gulf are government-orchestrated, blending fear of environmental collapse with paranoia about elite agendas. Project 2025, that controversial blueprint for a potential second Trump term, is decried by critics as a right-wing plot to dismantle climate action, effectively perpetuating global warming as a tool of chaos, much like how ancient floods allegedly erased advanced societies to prevent technological unity. And then there are the apocalyptic predictions that pepper 2025's discourse, from doomsday dates tied to ancient calendars to fears of Nibiru's return, stirring unease that our divisions are merely a prelude to another wipeout. Research from Trinity College this summer links these theories to post-pandemic uncertainty, where economic woes and health scares create fertile ground for narratives blaming secret cabals, Illuminati descendants perhaps for engineering splits along racial, religious, and national lines. Wander with me now into the realm of extraterrestrial intrigue, where UFO sightings, now rebranded UAPs in official parlance, pepper 2025 skies, fueling theories that Anunnaki or Pleiadian forces are returning to intervene in our fractured world. Government disclosures, trickling out amidst congressional hearings, hint at non-human craft, but skeptics cry scoop, a distraction from earthly wars, like those in the Middle East, where drone swarms and cyber attacks blur lines between human and otherworldly conflict. Could these phenomena be modern manifestations of ancient psychic wars, where Atlantis and Lemuria's vibrational battles echo in today's electromagnetic spectrum hacks? Misinformation trends tracked by the ADL this year show extremists weaving ancient apocalypse myths into current events, like claiming COVID remnants or vaccine rollouts were engineered to mimic biblical plagues, dividing societies into believers and deniers. In this light, racial tensions, from US protests over inequality to Europe's migration crisis, appear as engineered rifts, perpetuating the post-Babel scatter to thwart collective awakening. Even economic divides, with billionaires amassing fortunes amidst global poverty, smack of Tartarian free energy suppression, where elites hoard technology to keep the masses warring over scraps. These connections tantalize, don't they? The Council on Foreign Relations 2025 watchlist ranks state-based conflicts as top risks, intricately intertwined with cyber threats and resource scrambles that feel orchestrated, as if following a script from Emerald Tablet warnings of recurring destructions. Protracted wars, as analyzed by the IOSS, highlight fragile peace brokered under US influence, yet crumbling into renewed divisions, echoes of post-flood survivors rebuilding in isolation. And in humanitarian hotspots like Afghanistan, where decades of instability persist despite aid, we see the hand of perpetual chaos, perhaps to extract resources or test social controls. Conspiracy lists buzzing this year include alien control theories, where ETs manipulate leaders to sustain wars, linking back to Sitchin's Nibiru as a harbinger of 2025's uncertainties. As Pew's earlier worries about life in 2025 materialize in economic and health divides, one wonders if the ancient playbook floods to reset, divisions to control is still in play. Yet amidst this web, glimmers of unity emerge. Global movements for peace, environmental pacts defying odds, suggesting humanity might yet break the cycle. As night envelops us, these modern ties to ancient shadows invite profound reflection. Are we mere pawns in an eternal game, or are we the architects of our own reunion? This contemporary weave leaves us pondering the threads of fate. But as we approach our finale, what visions of a unified future might arise from these fractured pasts, beckoning us toward hope in the concluding whispers? As you drift in this quiet moment, letting the echoes of ancient divisions and modern struggles settle around you, imagine this, a unified past, not as a forgotten relic, but as a guiding compass pointing toward tomorrow's boundless possibilities. What if the cataclysms that fractured our ancestors were not definitive ends, but profound invitations to rebuild, to meticulously weave the threads of division into a magnificent tapestry of shared destiny? Allow these visions to unfold like petals under moonlight, stirring a quiet hope that gently lulls you into dreams of what might yet be. Envision a world where the deluge's timeless lessons ripple forward, not as grim warnings of impending doom, but as precise blueprints for renewal. The floods that tragically submerged Atlantis or choked Tartaria's soaring spires, the nuclear shadows cast by alleged Anunnaki wars, these weren't mere erasures, but powerful catalysts for evolution, forcing survivors to scatter, adapt, and ultimately plant the resilient seeds of human ingenuity in every corner of the globe. Today, in this October of 2025, those seeds are vigorously sprouting anew as humanity grapples with its own contemporary tempests, relentless climate upheavals, tumultuous geopolitical storms, and the digital deluges of pervasive misinformation. Yet amidst the pervasive chaos, glimmers of profound unity emerge, much like the post-flood rainbow promising no more total annihilation. Consider the United Nations High-Level Week this September, where global leaders convened under the powerful banner of Act Now for a Peaceful World, marking 80 years since the organization's birth from World War II's devastating ashes. This gathering wasn't just empty rhetoric, it powerfully spotlighted transformative initiatives, from critical climate pacts to the complex governance of AI, echoing the ancient innate human drive to harmonize after catastrophe. Or reflect on the International Peace Gala 2025, hosted by the Federation of World Peace and Love, which celebrated diversity and global transparency as potent antidotes to division, much like Tartaria's fabled multi-ethnic harmony. These tireless efforts remind us that the scattering after Babel, linguistic, cultural, spiritual, was perhaps meticulously engineered to test our inherent capacity for reunion, a profound challenge we are steadily rising to meet in forums like the 11 Days of Global Unity, an annual September event fostering campaigns for profound change across peace, justice. But hope isn't merely an abstract concept. It is vividly etched in the very discoveries that powerfully bridge eras, unveiling a past far more interconnected than we ever dared to dream. Just this month, archaeologists in Saudi Arabia unearthed 170 ancient rock engravings, including a remarkable 12,000-year-old carved face at Karahanti, gazing back at us from the very dawn of civilization, hinting at shared human expressions across immense distances. In Israel, a 3,300-year-old Canaanite tomb at Yavneh reveals deep Egyptian ties through rare funerary artifacts, blurring the traditional borders between ancient empires and strongly suggesting extensive trade networks that prefigure our modern globalized world. And in Peru, the momentous announcement of Pucara, a 3,500-year-old city in Barranca province, uncovers sophisticated urban planning that unequivocally rivals modern ingenuity, while Guatemala's La Blanca Mayan site, miraculously rescued from jungle oblivion, showcases architectural marvels that speak volumes of resilient communities rebuilding after severe environmental shifts. These astounding finds, emerging as if perfectly timed by fate, echo the underground arcs of Noah or the energy pyramids of Egypt, tangible remnants of a unified era where knowledge flowed freely, now resurfacing to profoundly inspire us. In a 2,500-year-old tomb in Kazakhstan, priceless treasures from the Iranian people offer breathtaking glimpses of nomadic sophistication, miraculously unlooted and pristine, as if patiently waiting for our era to truly appreciate their exquisite. Such profound revelations stir the very soul. Among the leftwally dandless news and polm castabulul nem saupradav. Could they be harbingers, unlocking lost technologies or forgotten wisdom to heal our present divides? Now lift your gaze to the vast skies, where the mysteries deepen and hope itself takes flight. This year alone, over 2,000 UFO or UAP sightings have been reported worldwide, a surge that captivates and unites curious minds across all borders. In New York, 66 encounters in the first half of 2025 describe enigmatic orbs whizzing through the air, executing impossible maneuvers that defy conventional physics, prompting lawmakers to accuse the Pentagon of deliberately withholding truths about these phenomena. Videos from congressional hearings even show missiles fired at mystery orbs over U.S. bases, with the craft surviving impacts in ways that eerily echo ancient tales of divine chariots or advanced Anunnaki craft. Globally, from mysterious Tennessee explosions linked to UAPs to heated debates in forums like Ancient Aliens, these sightings, deemed credible by experts, strongly suggest we are not alone, perhaps being watched by the very beings who shaped our fractured past. What if their return signals a critical turning point, subtly urging us toward profound unity, much like in Tartaria's harmonious days? Recent online posts buzz with excitement, one historian unveiling archaeological faces that remarkably mirror extraterrestrial descriptions, another sharing ancient engravings that could depict clear ancient contacts. Communities like Curiosity Origin celebrate ancient wonders, pondering lost technologies that could potentially power a sustainable future, free from the destructive wars that scar our present. In this intricate tapestry, hope is not a passive emotion, it is an active reclamation. The Global Peace Index 2025, launched amidst urgent calls for multilateralism, meticulously ranks nations by peacefulness, passionately urging us to mend fractures through earnest collaboration on climate and security, much like post-cataclysmic survivors rebuilding in underground havens. UN Secretary-General Guterres' heartfelt plea for peace in a fractured world profoundly resonates with Enoch's watchers, teaching arts for harmony, not havoc. Initiatives like the World Conference of Speakers of Parliament actively advocate for renewed global unity against rising crises, mirroring the multiracial peace of ancient Tartaria. Even in digital realms, posts like those from various online users call for exploring mysteries together, fostering profound connections that transcend all borders. As we approach United Nations Day this month, celebrating global cooperation, it's a moment to envision a future where the Nephilim's legendary strength builds bridges, not barriers, and pyramid energies power equitable societies. As the night unfolds, you, the listener, carry this vital vision. A unified past isn't merely buried, it's vibrantly alive in our present choices, beckoning us to heal divisions through boundless curiosity and profound compassion. The cataclysms taught us endurance. Now let us collectively author a lasting legacy of light. Sleep well, and dream of the dawn where mysteries unite us all.